Not often we have such a lively chat before I actually get going. Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry if I seem a little out of it tonight. It has been a very long day, and I am looking forward to relaxing writing code. That sounds weird to some people, but it actually is very relaxing. And I have a fly that likes my microphone, so this could get interesting as well. So, okay. So tonight my plan is more material design in XAML. And more importantly, we're going to have some fun with my new testing library because I think it is cool. Don't worry. Mountain Dew in a Bacardi glass for reasons. I'm working on it. And don't worry, I got a 2-liter sitting next to me as well, which is probably overkill. No, definitely overkill. Okay, so let me switch my screens. Not that one, that one. It's the problem when you don't have labels on your buttons. You just press them and see what happens, which is ironically also a method of programming. Not a great one, but a method. Okay, so if I grab this guy, make it bigger, and I go pull requests. Okay, I think we're good. F5, see what happens. I've already lost my place. Close pull request. That's where we're going. So there was one that I went back and forth on. This guy here. So this one I went round and round and round on. Bombi Papo. I'm probably butchering your name. So if you're watching this, thank you very much. I appreciate your patience and your code reviews on this. So we went round and round trying to get this thing fixed. So there was a fix that was put in. Ultimately, the problem was that if you added extra lines to a text box, if you deleted those lines, the text box didn't shrink back up into size. Right? And if we go in here and look, the reason for it, lots of tests. That one I don't care about. That one I don't care about. Smart hint I kind of care about. The reason for it was this line right here. The height of the smart hint inside of the text box template was bound to the height, the actual height of the text box. So as it got bigger, this thing's height was bound and it would never shrink, which was fine. That fixed a different bug, but ultimately then it never would get smaller. So part of the issue was that inside of the smart hint itself, it was applying a layout transform. So 2 types of transforms in WPF. Layout transform actually changes like the size and position of your element, whereas the render transform just changes how it looks. And oh my word, that fly is going to... if you see me whack myself in the face, it was a fly, I promise. But the layout transform will go through and actually change the size. The render transform will just change the way it looks. So if you take a render transform and you say, okay, translate this 10 pixels to the right, as far as layout is concerned, your thing is still 10 pixels back over to the left. It hasn't moved. So what I ended up doing is getting rid of this layout transform altogether, because the whole point of this, and let me just launch it, right? What? Last I checked, WPF apps are startable. Go. The whole point of this is because on the smart hint control itself, when you click, wow, I need to fix this. So hold on, light theme. There we go. So on the smart hint itself, it'll go from sort of this floating hint in here, and it'll float up to the top, right? So it has that translate that's occurring, and that's ultimately why it's in there. But what I realized is that I don't really want, when it floats up like this, to be part of a layout transform. I really just want that to be its rendered position, right? I want it to get smaller, shrink up, go to the left, or I guess shrink up and go up, right? Because it's getting smaller, it'll get narrower and look like it's going to the left. And so we switched that out. But then there was a second problem that was pointed out to me that I completely missed. So part of the issue was I kept going round and round and round, trying to make sure that I fix the first bug without reintroducing the original bug. And the other issue is that this clear button. So on some of our buttons up here, like this guy here, right, where it says good stuff. Let's see, do I have zoom it? Boom. So there we go. There we go. So like this Wi-Fi good stuff one, you'll note there's a clear button to the right there, right? So this guy right here. So if you click this, it clears the text, right? The original bug though was the height of this text box was changing by a fraction of a pixel when this clear button cleared the text. And there was a couple things contributing to that, one of which was the smart hint, and then one of which was the height of this. So there's still an outstanding bug that was pointed out, but it was, in my mind, it was a significantly lesser bug than what was there before, so I merged. But specifically around if the font size gets set to small, then the clear button gets cropped out a bit. So there's a little bit to be handled here in that the size of this button probably needs to be scaled down. More importantly, I think there's probably a size binding that can go in on this clear button. But for now, I'm going to ignore it. And my plan is to try and get through some of the other pull requests and come back. But I at least wanted to update on that since I spent pretty much all of last week stuck on it. And then a bunch of evenings kind of poking at it, realizing I was wrong. Again, I appreciate the code reviews from people. And I appreciate the patience, because sometimes when I'm coding late at night, I can be kind of thick-headed, and sometimes if it seems like I'm just missing something obvious, call it out, because I'm probably just missing something obvious. Okay, so fix caret not appearing. Since while we're picking on the text box, so here is the bug, right? So this is I love this, right? Beautiful, easy reproduction. So let's just make sure we can make this occur real quick. So I'm just going to come down here. We're going to pick on this guy, and we're just going to put this in place. And step one is make sure that this bug still reproduces, because I've gone slow enough that there's been other changes that have gone in, especially around the text box. So we're just going to fire this guy up and verify that this problem still occurs. So if I understand correctly, the issue is that when there is no text, the little caret, so the little flashy line that shows you where your text is going to go, no appear. So let's take a look. Let's take a look. Step one in all bugs is make them show up. Now, okay, this is going to be one of my next high priority things, right? Is the contrast on our color themes for dark and light theme are not correct. So that's a little frustrating. It's been that way for a while, but now that we actually have tests that can validate the contrast ratio between those, I want to start applying those and fixing them. And more importantly, making the color themes a bit more dynamic so that people don't have to think about it, right? I don't expect a bunch of people to go through and figure out the luminance of their colors and make sure they've got the correct bits. So that is correct. No caret shown. I'm wondering if there's a way I can write a test for this. I don't know if there is, because that thing doesn't show up as an actual element. It doesn't show up as an actual element. Okay, so there's that guy there. Let's take a look at the actual code change. So we've got that guy there. And I think I needed, because, well, hang on. I want to see. I just updated Get Kraken. Do you handle this case now? Oh, you do. Thank you, Get Kraken. You have made me happy. It used to be that if you had the remote hidden and you tried to open a PR from the remote, it just would fail. So I reported it, and it appears that the bug is fixed, which is great. Thank you, all Get Kraken team. We approve. Your tool is still the best, in my opinion. So always love me some good Get Kraken. Okay, so let's go back to those fields. And I think in the case of a light theme, it's easiest to see that caret. Click, and there it is. And that looks to be pretty much in the right spot. So because that doesn't show up as an actual element, I'm trying to decide what to do. So if we look at the change, because I think I looked at this on a prior stream, and effectively what ends up happening, so the same fix was applied to the password box, right, as well as the text box ones. So the text field grid has a margin of 16, effectively insetting it enough so that it doesn't get cut off. And I'm trying to decide if there's any test I could write. Like I could write a test asserting that this thing stays at 16, but that's not really what I care about. I don't care what this guy's margin is. What I care is whether that caret shows up or not. I don't think there's a reasonable test that can be written around this. So unfortunately, we're just going to go here. So if people have thoughts on how to test that, I would be very interested to know. This is definitely a bug fix. Squash merge. And we'll bring that guy in too. Look at that. Spend all stream last week on one pull request, and we've already got one under our belts. And it's been like 10 minutes. Confirm squash merge. Go. Thought I already clicked you. Excellent. Next pull request. Just kind of blast these things out. Okay, so let's go and take a look at. Oh, I actually should check that last pull request that I just closed. Was there a linked bug? I think there might have been. Hey, just closed you. Where are you? Hello? Oh, it's back here. Interesting ordering. No linked bug. Okay. Just want to make sure I get bugs properly moved into the milestone as well. Okay, so fixes the hint to the background color so that the material design outline text field box is always opaque so that the underlying border cannot be seen through. And this one, there's some conflicts, but that's okay. So this is a little hard to see. Be big, be big, be big. So yeah, so effectively on our demo app, and I think, yeah, this one here, right? So this is what's supposed to happen. When the hint floats up to the top, there's not a great way for us to crop this border line, right, without doing some very fancy custom rendering. And so what we do is we take the hint and we just set it on an opaque background that uses the theme brush. So the fact that both of these appear white and then in dark theme, both of these appear dark, it's strictly by convention because of the paper brush that we're using in both cases, right? So if we look at this really close, will let me do that? I don't think it will because it screenshots when it does the zoom. You can sort of see the covering as it transitions up over that line, and you can see it overlap it. So this guy here, so apparently this bug, so when enabled is false, this guy goes here. So that sounds like an easy thing to confirm. All right, and this sounds like something. This sounds like a test. I can write a test for that. Yeah. So let's confirm. So if if I just turn this off, how do I get it to float up and be enabled? Do this. Oh, look at that. It's very, very hard to see, but sure enough, there's the bug. Excellent. Bug reproduces. Excellent. But we can write a test for this. We can write a test. Okay, so let's look at the fix first, and then let's see. So we pulled in the math converter, and rather than just setting, so opacity of border gets removed, and instead there's a condition here. So hint wrapper. So this targets the hint wrapper instead of this guy was border, and uses the hint opacity. Great. Oh, and this also fixes the clear button. I do wonder, so that's the password box. I assume a similar change here on the text box. So same thing here. Is enabled false. And then, so when true and has outline text field, it will apply it. Let's see, so this handles the prefix, the content wrapper, the suffix, and the clear button, which seems fine. Okay, so let's grab this guy. Let's see, PR 2007. So pull up on master and get the latest, discard current changes, and grab this guy. And then we're going to rebase on master. And there's the expected conflict. Okay, so we have converter there, that guy there. Is that the only conflict? That was easy. It's almost too easy. Okay, so that'll address that. And let's go see if we can prove it out. I sort of want to write the test, then see it fail, then change branches and see it succeed. That sounds better. Yes, I believe that is what we are going to do. So we'll leave that branch sitting there. That guy's all fine and good. So let's go back to master. And we are going to go write ourselves a test, because we can do these tests. We can now do these tests. This is what makes me so happy. I can write tests on WPF XAML code and have it work. That is not the test project I want. I want the UI test project. Okay, so down here, I haven't really decided how I want to organize these things. It feels like if I put everything under text box tests, I'm probably going to end up with a lot. I thought about maybe each one of the, what are you whining about? Oh, because I changed branches. I thought about doing, rather than just text box tests, have a separate test class for each one of the top level styles. But then that gets a little weird because some of the styles here are, let's see. So like you've got the main material design text box base style, right? But then you've got a few of these that all they do is set some attached properties, and all of the work ends up in the base one. So it's like I couldn't decide, so I just put them all in one. So regardless, let's do this. So collapse all these guys up, collapse that over so I can see what I'm doing, move that over, move that down. Okay, here we go. So new test, description, and let's do issue just to flag this so I don't lose it. 2002. Boom. Let's see, public async task on text box with, or actually on text box disabled, floating hint, background is opaque. Something like that maybe. And then there's a couple kind of boilerplate pieces that ultimately I think I may try to boil into an XUnit extension. So this little test recorder bit at the beginning and the end, all this does is this guy watches for test failure. And by watches for test failure, what he does is he's going to be disposed of at the end of this. And so if his dispose method gets called before success is called, because an assertion through an exception, for example, then he snapshots the current screen and saves that image. So it's just a way to get pictures if the tests start failing. Okay. So let's do something like this. We're gonna go here and let's grab that very convenient. Nope. 3 Chrome windows, and I went through all 2 of the wrong ones before landing on the right one. That's right. It's going to be one of those nights. Mountain Dew. Oh, boy, I'm going to need it today. Let's see here. So what we need is something like this, which we saw in the demo app. So let's just go steal some of that code. Which one was it? I don't actually recall, so let's just launch the demo app. One of these guys, it was the multi-line one with the... Yeah, I think it might have been looking at it right there. So I think it's this one. But I've also thought about going through and making this interaction here a little bit smoother for me. Okay, so this button here shows me material design outline text field box. So this guy clearly will do what I want. So sure. Yeah, we'll start with that. That'll be a good starting point. Thanks. That's all I need. So you go into here. Oh boy. Hang on 1 second. We're just going to fire up code. Check and see, because I don't know what's on my... The only problem with it always opening my last thing, new window, is sometimes you don't want it showing in the last file you were on. Nope. There we go. So paste, and we're going to do some renames here real quick. So find me quote, replace it with double quotes. Do it. Thanks. And then we're going to get rid of the is enabled bit. Don't care about that. Don't care about that. Don't care about that. Do I care about vertical alignment? Sure. Let's go with it. That should be better. Okay. So we're just going to go in here and clean this up. Paste. And then multi-cursor that guy down. Okay. So that gets us that. That'll get us the grid. We can then extract it by just going into the grid's children and grabbing the very first text box element. Okay. So what we then want to do is we want to... Well, actually, let's just put some text in here too, right? So text gets some content to force int to float, right? We'll just put the description of what we're doing right in the element. And then we also want to disable it. So let's do is enabled gets false. And then I think what we need to do is figure out what element is it that we care to check. So let's look at the template. So the issue is in here, buried down in this guy, and it's going to be down. I think we just go after the smart hint object directly. Because the other one, because the change is going to hint wrapper. I suppose we could grab that guy, because that's ultimately what's getting set in the fix, is the hint wrapper. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab the hint wrapper. So we will come back to our tests. Visual element, hint wrapper, gets text box, get element, boom. Oh, that's an async method, so we'll await it. And let's see, hint wrapper, get effective background. All right, and this should be a color. if one had remembered to properly await his own method signatures. I usually don't advocate for async methods having the term async on the end of them, but I'm starting to think I might have to, given the number of times I've gotten bit by this. What? Did I just include the wrong color? That one. Thanks. Wish you were a little smarter in telecode. Okay, so that gives us our background color, and then our assertion is that it is opaque. Assert true. Or I guess we could do equal, right? Because what we're saying is the expected is something like 255, because we want to look at the alpha, right? And we expect an opaque color. We don't care what the color is, we just expect it to be opaque. Okay, so run the test. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It passed. That's not a good sign. So let's do this, and we'll start with debugging the test. So one of the wonderful things about this is if you put a breakpoint in here, because it's spinning a secondary WPF app to launch, when it hits this breakpoint, I can just come over here and interact with the app. So a couple things I'm noticing. This is hard to look at for a number of reasons, but it also, I need a margin. I don't know, 30, right? I just need some space because I can't actually see all the way onto this hint to know if it's right or wrong, because effectively the border is going all the way to the edge of the window and getting clipped. So that's a problem. And so we'll let the test run. If you kill the test automatically in here, it's the same with like an Appium test where your background process is likely to stay running. My little test framework currently has the same problem. So just an FYI, don't do that. I'm planning on looking at solving it with process jobs, where you can effectively give your process a parent, and so if the parent dies, you die, but that doesn't always work, simply because when you're running inside of Visual Studio, the process is already nested, and you can't have multiple tiers of process nesting. Okay, so if we zoom in on that itty-bitty little guy, he claims the background's opaque, but visually, I see a line, right? Right. Let's see if I can remember my. Oop. I do there. That was horrible. But that guy there does show through. So something is off, and I want to know why. So let's go back to Snoop. Come here, Snoop. Show me what's going on this little guy. Yeah, I realize you're disabled, so you don't want to target it. Whatever. Dive in. Let's see. Where is the... So we are looking for the hint wrapper. And what is your background? Your background is transparent. Wait, do I have this backwards? Is transparent alpha of 255 or of 0? I can't remember now. Now I'm second guessing everything I know about color. So no, 255 is opaque. Sure, install later. I don't want to think too hard right now. Right? 255. If I go lighter, yeah, that is not opaque. Okay, so little confused. Oh, but it's gonna float all the way up through here. Oh, that's why. Grumble, 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 grumble. This guy. This hint wrapper here Because get effective background, what it does is it walks up the visual tree and tries to combine brushes until it hits something that is opaque. So the problem being is we grabbed hint wrapper, right? And then said, okay, what's your effective background? Well, this guy doesn't actually have a background, right? And maybe we should have grabbed the text block itself inside of it. That might have been better. We might do that. Because ultimately I don't care if it's the hint wrapper. What I do care about is this guy. And he starts walking up to his parent, and the problem being is that it doesn't necessarily, the get effective background, it assumes that the parent element in the visual tree is also the containing parent, which because of transforms may not be the case, right? So it's not perfect. I wonder if there's a cleaner approach to this. Okay, so we've got that guy. So so he must have hit background border, hit this. I'm guessing the background color that it picked up for it is probably looking kind of like that. FA. So F5 me one more time. Hey, look at that. It is. Which is why it thinks that it is. It thinks it's opaque because this guy thinks he's opaque. So how do we do this? How do I ensure that that this hint as it's walking up stays opaque? Because okay, so what exactly is the bug here? Conveniently, we've got the fix, so working backwards to the bug is not that hard. So let's just collapse password box since that's not what we're working with, and let's go here. So this is enabled. On disabled, right? So the issue is border opacity is being set currently, and this sets individual elements at a much lower level. Let's see. So this is the reason for the multiplication here. So this is just changing it to apply to each of the individual child elements, but not the outer border. So I'm guessing if we look at the outer border is a little too big because it's being applied to pretty much everything inside of the text box, which is sort of good, but not quite what we want. Not quite what we want. But this guy's background. So hold on, I'm a little confused here. So I'm wondering if get effective background has a bug. Because if the parent has an opacity, that applies to the rendering of all child elements, but then why does that show through? Right? Because this guy has, zoom in. That guy has a very fixed background, right? Clearly opaque, but yet the line is coming through. Okay, let's take a look. So there's no extra opacity being applied. He's 100% opaque. Hintus background. This guy gets an opacity. That's fine. He should have some opacity, but he's... I'm just curious why this thing is rendering the way that it is. And I'm wondering if it's because the hint is inside of the border, which I believe is the fundamental case. So if that is true, get background, get effective background color is a lie. It's a lie. Yeah, so let's, because this guy's going to walk up, and he does take into account the opacity of the element that he's at, but that is a bug. Okay, so I'm going to go log that real quick because I don't want to lose track of it. But we are going to come back and fix this elsewhere. So issues, new issue, get effective background does not apply parent element opacity. Sure, good enough. Right now these bugs are just for me, so I can write them poorly because I'm the only one suffering. Okay, so the question then is, what should we do the assertion on? So given this, I'm thinking that the answer is, how do I make sure the hint background, floating hint text block, because the fix is to not apply it at a higher level and instead only apply it lower. So I'm thinking we just start at the smart hint, grab his effective background all the way up, right? And make sure that it is opaque. So let's do that. So we can just grab the hint element instead. Oh, we should let this go. Go ahead and go. So we'll grab the hint instead, and we'll do it here. And he should come back, right? And I believe this guy should fail out because the hint is contained inside of the border. The border will no longer have an opaque background because of the opacity that is applied when disabled, and this test should fail. Like I said, it should pass successfully. What the heck? Mountain Dew isn't helping. Mountain Dew isn't helping. We are all in trouble. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so drive it on in. Drive it on in. Yeah. Here. So this guy is the one with the opacity set on him, right? So what I am interested in is the background properties and the, let's see, opacity properties. Those are the two, right? So right now, this guy clearly has an opacity set. Opacity set, we grabbed it from here. Right? Ding, 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 ding. It's almost like I want to grab effective background but stop at an element, because I'm guessing what's happening is I'm walking all the way up. And I'm likely going to get all the way into, what did we end up getting back? Material design paper at the very back. Hover background. You don't count. You're outside my visual tree. Outside my visual tree. Transparent. Yeah, so it's bubbling all the way up to here, and I really want it to stop once it hits the text box. So let's see. Can we do something fancy? I think I turned on source link. Let me look. I think source link is now turned on. So I think we just step right into this. Come on. Oh, right. NuGet Package Explorer is not hip to having side packages. Let's just step and see. No dice. Let's source link. That is not how you spell. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead. Enable source link support. Sure. Might need to double check that, because I thought source link was now enabled, but I could be wrong. I did not actually test it after doing so. Okay, so this guy is going to grab the effective background and end up walking all the way to the window, which makes this almost meaningless. So what we will do is we'll just do something that we know we can detect, right? We'll make this guy red. So this guy we aren't going to test against here, right? Because I don't believe we should get back anything other than, well, we should get red back here, right? Because it'll start with the hint, walk up, 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 up. Oh boy, yeah, that's nice and big. So what I'm interested in getting is not a true red, because this is probably true red. Wait, what? Hint, get effective background. That seems to imply that there's a material design paperbrush somewhere in the middle. And it's probably on this hint, actually, now that I think about it. Let's go all the way in, all the way in, all the way in, go to the hint. Okay, so we're starting here. He is going to use the background properties and the opacity properties. And so he would go here. It's going to start here with this background. He's not going to find anything. It'll be empty. Go to here. Nothing. Empty. Go to here. An opacity, but not empty. Opacity, but not empty. Background is empty. Background is transparent. Color me confused. Let's see. Can I run? I've never tried this, but what I'd kind of like to do is do await text box get effective background. Is this a thing? Can I do asynchronous method? I want async in my immediate window. Okay, so we'll let you go. Var foo gets text box I'm a little curious how it's jumping straight up like that. And we shall await you. And we shall debug you. I'm just trying to figure out why or where this guy's ending up with it. So it seems like he's missing an obvious background. Huh? Okay, we're opening that solution because this is just dumb. This is just dumb. Dumb. Don't recover. I don't need those. Okay. I might be detouring here in a moment. All because I have to write a test. But I might need more caffeine. Okay. So I think there's a couple things that I would like. One, I would like a get effective background to be able to pass a stop element in the tree, right? I'd like to say stop when you get to X, right? So I think we need an overload. Let's see. And then more importantly, it appears that there's just a straight up bug somewhere. So find all references, because I thought there was a test around this. Yeah, we've got some tests. So it does it against a simple case with a border. Right? So the background of the window is white, name of border, get effective background. Or I'm sorry, the background of the window is red. So it starts with the border, finds red, right? Let's see. This guy here does some more backgroundy work, combines some colors, outputs them. Okay, so go to implementation. Let's see here. So I actually need to come over here, and it's going to be down here. And nope, not what I wanted. Try that again. Okay, get effective background. What exactly do you do on the server side? So server side in this case just translates to running inside of the WPF app. Okay, so it's going to look up the element that we told it to start with, which is great. In our case, back over here, the element we told it to start with is either the text box or the hint. So great. Find the element in the tree. Start with transparent. Walk through all of the ancestors, specifically looking at the background property. This is where there's where I know there's at least one bug, right? Because if the opacity is set on the parent, but the background set on the child, it's not combining those together properly. That's a problem, right? So it technically needs to walk up looking at opacity all the way up, because if that's set on any parent, that's going to propagate all the way down, right? So we need to deal with that. But then it just calls flatten onto, and the part that baffles the mind a little bit is the fact that we clearly should be getting red. In both cases, I see no reason why this guy shouldn't hit grid and pull back red. But I am wondering if... So hold on. Cameron, you just now subscribed? Also, welcome. Sorry, I work with Cameron, which means I must heckle mildly. Did you like unsubscribe, resubscribe just to try and get my attention? If so, I'm flattered. Okay, so this is panel background. So here's the bug right here, right? So case, panel, right? Background gets panel dot background. Because unfortunately in WPF, there's not just a single background property on a base class that you can rely on. There's a bunch. At least 3 that I've come across. Okay. Well, before we do this, let's see. Let's just do another test, I guess. Write a test. Get effective background. It returns opaque panel color. So we are going to do something. Let's do something a little more akin to like what we had. So grid, background. My Amazon Prime renewed yesterday, and I want to make sure I get at least $5 of value from it. I'm flattered, and thank you. Let's see here. So red, and then we'll just do, so close the grid there. This indentation makes me feel weird. So we're going to do this. That makes me feel less weird. Okay, and then we'll do something like a text block, and yeah, good enough, right? So this there, and actually let's make this guy blue. That way we have something to hunt by. We'll hunt out the text block and get effective background color, and we expect red again, right? Not blue, red. So this should currently fail, right? Because test should always go red, then blue. Because if they, or I'm sorry, red, then blue. Wow. Wow. It's that bad. Test should go red, then green, because if they start green, you have no idea if the code that you changed actually did anything. So this guy failed. We did not get our red, right? We expected this, got not that. We go back over here. We put in our fix and rerun our test. Huzzah! Okay. Panels now work. Great. Let's see. Fixing get effective background for panels. Let's see. We will commit that. And then the other thing we wanted is we wanted an overload on this guy. So I wanted to be able to tell it when to stop, right? Of stop going higher, I'm done. Right? So let's change, so get effective background, stops processing at defined parent. Right, so we want to allow effectively get effective background and specifying a parent out of this. So this guy, we will do a background of, let's see, 0x, I don't know, dd, and we'll go with the red again, right? So we expect that this is the color we should get, right? So we don't expect red, and right now if we run it, let's see, colors, color from ARGB, right? So we expect to get 0x dd 0x ff 00, right? Horrible formatting, but so let's fix it, right? Make it look like the thing above. So that's what we expect to get. We expect to, let's see, child here, we'll do parent here, and we want give me the first grid element, and so I want to grab from child, and I want to be able to do this, right? That's the test I want to write. Problem is that overload doesn't exist, so let's build it. Now I think what I'm going to do is visual element, what do we call this? Parent, stop it element. That feels like two element. I don't like it, but it's the best I got. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the API here, right? So right now, I'm intentionally versioning this XAMLTest library with 0.0. version number, with the expectation that even on a stable release on NuGet, that all APIs are subject to change on my whims. Okay, so I want to add visual element mixins. So for reference, I did go and add an insane number of extension methods for pretty much all the WPF properties. No, I did not write this code. I auto-generated it. And then I trimmed out some stuff that just didn't make sense. There's probably more in there. Not all of them are likely to work. There's probably some bugs. Didn't write tests on any of them, but they were all auto-generated, so huzzah. Okay, so I want to do something in here. So specifically, I want to have public static async, and then get effective background. And so I'm going to use an extension method to gen me up the overload that I want, right? So ultimately, previously, there was a that element there. Now, I could get away with doing something Where'd my interface go? iVisual element. So you go away, you go away, you go away, right? So I could get away with doing something like this, right? Optional arguments inside of the interface, and that is one way to do it. The problem being is this kind of gets to be a little bit yucky. I do think I should declare this guy as nullable. Because default parameters like that, what ends up happening is when the compiler encounters a method that has a default parameter, what it does is at the call site, the caller who's calling this method, it just embeds that literal value at the call site, which is different than if you have an overload for each case, because that means the default value is then resolved inside of the overload rather than at the call site. So small difference. You can see I made the exact opposite decision up here. Probably should go back and fix that at some point, but this is what I think is the better option here, right? So this visual element, but again, these things all subject to change on my whims because I'm still kind of figuring this out. So we're going to just do this, return await. Right now, you could drop the async and the await here. The problem is by doing so, you will likely screw up your stack trace on exceptions thrown. Right? There is a small performance gain to be had by doing this because you are no longer generating the entire state machine that comes with an async method. But you should never ever do that unless you've got performance benchmarks showing that is causing you problems, because the vast majority of the time, it's not your bottleneck, right? And I would like to have nice, pretty extension methods. Okay, so we're going to call into here. We're going to call into here. We are going to go to the implementation. All right, there is none right now, so we will open it up. Let's see, internal visual element. All right, so we're going to collapse this guy down, get effective background. So this guy takes in an I, visual element, and this guy we declare as nullable because null is a thing that could happen. So ultimately on this side, the client needs to send this element over. Now the problem being that these interfaces are basically loose facades, right? I've sort of done poor man's remoting where the elements have these GUIDs but don't actually translate to anything. So what we really want to do is, hang on, this to element, right? We should make the name match. So first of all, let's change these query objects. So these are protocol buffers. So we open up our proto file, and so get effective background, we want to change the query, which is down here. So we are going to also pass a string to element ID. It will have that. So by hitting save, I now magically have a toElement ID property that I can now set. Woot woot. So toElement ID gets toElement as visual element, and I'm going to assume that it has to be of this type. Why is ID public? Find all references. Does not need to be public. So we are going to go with protected, right? And we will do this, do that, right? And toElement ID. Boom, boom, boom. That gets me to there. That gets me to there. Last thing to do is implement it on the server side so it actually gets consumed. I'm just going to compile real quick to make sure that I didn't break anything with that protection modifier change. Looks like we're still good. Okay, so server side, visual tree service. Boom. So get effective 1. So we then need to determine if we've got a toElement ID, right? Because we're going to walk through these ancestors, pulling them. We need to know what that element is. So I think get cached element is hip to nulls. Is that true? Yeah, is null or white space. So I don't. We're gonna declare you nullable because we clearly handle that case. So what we will do is dependency object 2-element get cached element dependency object. Oh, actually, this needs to be a framework element. Why does this need to be a framework element? Because we are checking opacity. We're going to have to change this. Dependency object. So that's gonna break a few things. That's okay. So spelling, I am like no. I can just see the length of those strings are different by a sizable margin, so I'm just going to assume I can't spell to save my life right now. Let's see, 2-element ID. We'll extract it. We'll get 1. So the reason we had to change this to a dependency object is because this could be any dependency object, and I don't want ancestors to filter out something that we might otherwise need. What we are going to do, though, is we now need to check this guy here, right? So if ancestor is framework element, that's going to conflict, isn't it? Yep, with that guy. Let's see. Ancestor element. Then well, then basically this, right? So this guy goes here, this guy goes here, but you actually need to be pulled out and declared outside because we're going to need you above. Put you back there, do that. Great, great, great. Otherwise, we're just going to assume you get set to brush.color, right? And actually what we should do this. All right, so you should be brushed up. Typing is really hard. So you should just be brush.color, and then we should just do parent background, right? And then we don't need the else block. That seems a little cleaner, I think. Meh, we'll go with it. Okay, so, and then finally at the end of this for each, right, we do all that, we do all that. If ancestor equals 2-element, stop, then we shall break. Prove me right. Run the test. Please work. It looked too easy. XAML parse exception. Failed to create background from text. Oh. Isn't that valid XAML? There's a very real chance I'm just flat out crazy. So one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I am confused. Let's yeah, sure, you can go ahead. If I just hypothetically, right, just let's see, so that goes like that, goes like that, invalid value. Oh, it's just pound, isn't it? Yeah, okay, yep, I'm an idiot. Pound is the way you denote that. Let's try that again. Unit test pass. Okay. Prove to me that I didn't break anything else. Run all the tests. So those, oh no, I broke other tests. Specifically, I broke all the other visual element tests. That's disappointing. What did we do wrong? Let's see. Value cannot be null. So let's see here. Oh, how do I do? So the issue is the protocol buffer doesn't want to be null. Hey Kenny, are you still there? Do you know how to do nullable string in protocol buffer? Is it? Can I just do that? Is that a thing? Question being, if that's a thing, I should be able to jump into here. That's, I guess the other thing we could do, right, is I could just, well, okay, so here's the thing. Rather than, okay, what we'll do is we'll just handle it on this side, right? There, problem solved. We'll send empty string, because null or empty string effectively mean the exact same for the purpose of this, right? It's there is no ID. Okay. I think I'm just going to rerun all of these just to make sure that that small teeny change didn't break anything extra. I am realizing that running these unit tests is starting to annoy my visual senses. The repeated flashing of the windows as it's running. The nice part is these tests run fairly quick considering they're spinning a WPF app up every time. So that's kind of cool. And I have hopes of making these go quicker by, like, if you've got multiple tests that can reuse the same WPF host so that it doesn't have to spin that process, I think I can cut these times down significantly as well. So future iterations. Okay, so stage all changes. Adding ability to get effective background between elements. Great. Take, push. Okay. So GitHub actions fire, NuGet things happen, and NuGet package goes out the door. So, but that doesn't get us to our fix here. But that will get us somewhere. So, there is an outstanding question of, for now, right? Because this guy's clearly broken. I'm wondering if a better fix in the meantime here is simply making an assertion on this guy's opacity. Which means I can't effectively go the red-green route on this test. Which makes me sad. So I think what we're going to do is this. Get effective background. So we are going to grab all the way up. So this code is going to not compile at the moment, but it will compile shortly. And just to prove to myself that it does, I'm going to just check that build real quick because it should go fairly quick. So doing all the things, some checks haven't completed. But I want, no, go back. This button, this button. I just want to watch the build. Thanks. You just kind of sit there for a second. Go and do all the things. Okay, so this guy will pull the effective background. And ultimately, I think what we're saying, actually, I think we actually want to go deeper, don't we? Because it's between, so from the text box, so because it's the borderline ultimately, right? I want to verify from my hints text box all the way to that borderline that the effective background of that is ultimately opaque. That's ultimately the check. So to make that be a thing, I think I actually want to grab a few elements out of this template, right? So one, I want to grab border. So we're going to grab this guy. Let's see. So visual element, border gets await, text box, get element with name border. That'll work. Because that's where we want to stop, but I'm almost wondering if I want to grab the guy just inside the border. Like this guy. Right? I think I do, because getting the background is ultimately inclusive. Let's grab this. Let's do this. So we'll grab it here. Text field grid. Right? Boom. That guy, that guy, that guy. And then I think we go all the way inside of the hint. I think we go all the way to the hint wrapper and then grab the first text block inside of it. Because this is, so here's the thing. The actual content inside of the hint doesn't have to be a text block. It will be in this case because the content that we're putting inside of this presenter is a string, and WPF defaults the template for a string to just be a text block, right? It makes sense. String should display a bit of text. Great, right? But you can put anything you want inside of this hint. You can do icons, images, a whole nother grid if you want. It really doesn't matter. And actually, I think that's important. I think that means that what we should do is we should grab the effective background from the hint wrapper all the way back. All right, so this is going to be hint wrapper, right? And so what we want is no. Just because I can't type, you can still do what I mean. So what we want to do is we want to grab the effective background from the hint wrapper all the way up to the text field grid. Let's see, and we're going to put a little comment here because this is not intuitive. Text field grid is the element just inside of the border, right? Because ultimately what we want to say is we don't want to see that border showing through. So we'll grab its child, or I should say we'll grab the hint and we'll walk up the visual tree until just before getting to the border, right? Like you're going to Canada, and then stop and see what your background color is. For those of you outside of North America, Canada is just north of me. If that wasn't obvious. Okay. So something like this. I think this is the test I want to write. Which means hurry up and ship. So push NuGet. Huzzah. So CI46 is the magic winner. It's the winner. So we are going to come back here. We're going to go up to packet. Something dependencies. Oh, nope, not packet. Because this guy, okay, at some point I need to fix this. I need to fix this. We've got a very, depending on which project you open the solution, depends on whether it's using packet or NuGet. And I can almost kill my dependency on packet. Packet gives you centralized package management which NuGet now has. But if you use centralized package management with NuGet, you can't reference pre-release NuGet packages, which is really dumb. Really, really dumb. It's a work in progress. Did you already download that dependency? Did you already find it? Oh, look at that. You already found it. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? That is what CI/CD should be like, right there. I push, and next thing I know, there's a NuGet package. Booyah. And more importantly, NuGet.org did not take an hour to index it. Okay. So, given this, I think we're going to need to change this assertion. I think I don't want to just assert on the alpha value. Probably want to be more explicit. Regardless, let's give this guy a shot. So this should give me something. And more importantly, the something that it gives me should not be all the way. See, it went all the way to the top. Why did you go all the way to the top? Now I'm a bit confused. Because you walked all the way up and walked right past. Let me just confirm. Nope, CI46 is the latest one. You went all the way up and past. Okay, so back to a little bit of debugging, right? So we're gonna go here. Var foo gets await text box get effective background, right? That guy should return me. There's no reason that should return me anything other than red. Right? Unless this thing is explicitly setting a background color on the text box itself, there's no reason I should get anything other than red out of this guy. Okay, so that guy got me red. This guy got me the paper background. Is there an element that is setting paper somewhere? It appears that the answer is yes, but I am apparently too dumb to understand my own code. So, since I can't read my own code, let's just walk through this and figure out what it is. Okay, so we start with hint wrapper, right? That's where we said we were going to go. We're going to start with the hint wrapper, and we will walk up to the text box. Okay? We are only concerned with properties that have the word background or opacity in them. Those are the only two that are going to be affected. This guy here, oh look, there it is. Well, so hint background border is picking up paper. And therefore, it's being rendered. So unfortunately, the code is doing exactly as I told it to do. Do we go and fix that other bug real quick or not? Little torn, little torn, little torn. Because the problem is even though, so it's hitting a brush that it believes is opaque. Right? Which is the reason why you see that little whiteness around, like, right? So that little, this is a text area hint that's floating up there. The reason you see that is because there is a color. Okay, fine. I've already got it open. I'm already fixing it. Let's write the so one of these days I'm going to get through an entire stream without getting sidetracked on a secondary issue. I don't know what day it's going to be, but one of these days. Okay, so get effective background. Let's see. Applies opacity from parents, right? Okay, so we're gonna do a few things. So we're gonna do a mixture of red. We're going to do grid. Let's see, indent U. Close grid. Background gets blue. Boom, boom. Let's see. Opacity gets 0.5. We'll make the math easy, right? Okay. So we are going to do grab grid, right? So we're going to grab this. We're going to grab the text block because this is recursive, right? So it'll go running in, find me my only text block. Start there. It'll walk up it should find this guy's background, right? It should realize that this thing is not fully opaque and keep going. Or I'm sorry, it should realize that this guy here has an opacity and not be straight blue. So I expect half transparent blue is what I expect out of this, right? So I don't know what 255 divided by 2 is. Maybe I should have picked a base 2 number. Whatever. How do you do 255 divided by 2? Like, I'm wondering, is that going to be integer? And it's going to come out at... Bet you it truncates the 0.5 off. Right? So that'd be, let's see, 120, 125, 127, 127 maybe. So I think it's going to be that, right? And then not red, RGB is what we expect to get back out of this, right? Lime, actually. So lime may look weird, but lime is actually fully, so if we look at colors.lime, right? Lime is actually the RGB value 00FF00. So it looks funny, but lime is actually what most people would call green. Okay, so run the test. This should go red. Great. Okay, now let's go and implement it. So over on the service. So effectively, we're going to have to keep walking up this tree all the way to the top. There's not going to be a way to stop. If background is not equal to null. Oh, gotcha. So if we get a brush that's not a solid color brush, right? So if somebody uses like a radial brush or a linear gradient brush, right? This blows up. We are not handling those. There's not a lot I can do about it. Except for get really, really fancy and because then it's the background at what point on your element, right? Because if it's like a linear gradient brush and you ask for your effective background color, it's a linear gradient. It's at what point in the background do you want your color, because that will be different. And so we just give up. So I think what we're going to do is bool reached to element gets false. Right? And then what we'll do down here is rather than a break, we will just set it to true. Boom, 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 and keep going. So this guy here is going to be let's see. So solid color brush, blah, blah, blah. I kind of want to just do the flatten and then the opacity. Is that fair? Is that the same? I don't think it is, because if you flatten blue onto red but you don't take the opacity into account, you're wrong. So how about if reach to element? We're just gonna short circuit here. Continue. All right, this method is quickly going to get ugly, but in the interest of keeping it simple, we want this. I want this, right? And I want current color gets current color. I think this method is becoming monstrous. Yes, I know. I'm open to suggestions. I'm trying to avoid over refactoring and overthinking it until I know exactly what this thing needs to be, but I am thinking that there is room for a few. Okay, fine. Fine. You convinced me. But I'm not refactoring it into multiple things. So static color get background suggestion. Kill it without mercy or hesitation. Not quite the suggestion that I was envisioning. No, but I'll take it under advisement. So we're going to go here, and let's do yeah. Still using the let's see, element switch, right? And then this is going to be, let's see, we got to do border control panel. So in the case of border, we'll return border dot background. In the case of control we'll do control dot background. In the case of panel dot background. Else, so for people who haven't seen it, C#8 switch pattern matching, it is wonderful. We'll just return a null, and we're done. Let's see, what is your problem? Oh, this is supposed to be returning a brush. And possible null reference return. Well, that's because I'm returning a null. Let's see. It's declared but never used. Well, good news. We'll go fix that. So background gets boom, which means you now need to be nullable. And ancestor. Let's see. So we're going to do this. Boom, boom, boom. I think we do that for now. That at least cleans that up a little bit. See, less monstrosity. Well, it's still kind of big, but at least now some of it's now refactored into a little method. See, it's pretty. Now, it failed. That's exciting. It's because I can't round. Let's see. Expected something that was mildly transparent. Instead got fully opaque blue. So that's not right. Let's see here. So what does that mean we did? Conditional complexity is piling up here. Yes, I know. Hang on. I'll fix it with Mountain Dew. Okay. So this guy here should have grabbed, let's see. Let's just walk through this real quick. So this guy would have started with an empty transparent background because there's nothing set, right? Would have gone up to his parent, detected that the parent had a background of blue, reached its 2 element, which would have set it here. All right. Debugger break. Or actually, I guess debugger launch. And let's go here, right? So let's run this test. This is going to look weird. And then we're going to debug it. And ironically, we'll debug it in the same instance that we ran the test in. If that doesn't look weird to anybody, I don't know what will. Okay, so that should find an element. Great. This should find me an element. Great. Okay, so let's walk through these. So first ancestor is itself. Should get a background of nothing. Great. Background is not null. Haven't reached our element. It's worth noting that our current color is still transparent, I hope. Yep. So we loop around. Now we hit our first grid. Great. This guy's background should be blue. That looks like blue to me. It grabs it. It grabs it. Oh, look, this is a problem. Right? So it thinks it's opaque. We can't have the early exit because this is not actually possible. Let's see. So how do we do that merge? I think we just let it go. Right? So run that. Oh, I still have a debugger launch in there. Can I kill it quick? Oh, nope, can't kill it in time. Let's try that again. Rebuild. What you can't see is Visual Studio popping its little window there. So the short version is when these tests are running, because it's spinning up a second WPF application with this visual tree service running inside of that WPF application, it is two processes communicating back and forth. So debugging the tests doesn't actually give you debugging on the process that it's spawning. Okay, so once again, same problem. So we'll just put that back. I probably should have led with that. Always good to step through it. I was just so convinced that I'd found it. Let's see here. Well, there's probably a bug in here somewhere. So we'll go find it. There's only 3 elements. How hard could it be? Oh, and sorry, I debugged that test. How silly of me. One does not simply debug the test. They simply run the test and attach a debugger to it. Okay, so let's just run to here. Okay, so the only thing this method is missing are some good go-to statements. You may be joking, Kenny. However, there is one valid use case in C# for go-to statements, and that is to implement fall-through behavior inside of switches. Now, refactoring the switch is probably better. However, it is legit, and I'll have you know, I've got at least one switch in here. Now, this is a switch expression, not a switch statement, but we could fix that. And then the circle of life would be complete. Okay, so this is the text block. We're just going to loop to the next one. Okay, so current color is still transparent. We're now on our first grid. We got a brush. We get the color, which I hope is blue, which it is. We apply opacity of 1, which does literally nothing. We take our current color of nothing and apply blue to it. Our current color goes to blue. That looks right. Hold on. We should have had reached element. So to element and so we did not grab the appropriate interesting. So you'll note our to element is pointed at the wrong thingy. So /grid/grid. Do I not know how to use my own algorithm? So create window with content. I'm sort of wondering, go to implementation. You don't do anything fancy by wrapping stuff in a grid, do you? You don't. I guess my question though is there an extra grid in there? Okay, so we're going to, so this does make me question if I'm getting the right grid. A legit question, which we will go add a test for that in a moment. But in the interest of making sure that this test is clear enough, let's see, red grid, xname, blue grid. And so we will be clear, we would like the blue grid. Okay. So maybe that guy is fine, and we just didn't hit our correct statement. So run into here. First ancestor is the text block. I guess run down, then run to here. That's our next grid. Great. Come on. There you go. Set it, set it, set it. Your blue. Reached element is true now, which is what we want. This guy now should be applying this. This makes the current color 7F. Hey, look, we were right. There's a content presenter. That should have no opt, which it did. This guy here, adorner decorator, does its thing. Does its thing. And then we go out. So now, test pass. Goal. Okay. So there's that. I do want to take this guy here and go to my, because I'm a little disappointed that that thing did not retrieve the element as expected. So we're going to add a test for that real quick. Let's see. Get effective background, get property, get element. It retrieves items by name, by type, and index. So this is the one that it retrieves by type, right? Let's see. Test method, public async tasks. See, you're absolutely right, Kenny. That is what it is all about. I am highly motivated by little green checkbox and cookies and Mountain Dew and occasionally donuts. It retrieves nested items by type. Boom. So now paste. Oops. Yeah, so that'll work. So we don't need any of this stuff anymore. Don't need any of this stuff. So what I do need is that. Okay. So I visual element. Let's change the names because these don't make any sense. How about parent and child element? Parent gets window, get element, parent, right? And then boom, we can do that. Dupe that real quick. This becomes child. And then for our act portion of the test, nested element, I expect to be able to go grid, and I should be able to assert, let's see, R equal, because this is MS test, so expected is child, actual nested element. So just be aware, visual element does have its equality operator overridden behind the scenes because visual element has that GUID ID. The equality operator does comparisons on ID. So if you're curious why I can write my code like that, that is how. Okay, look at that. Test failed. Test failed. Expected visual element, actual visual element. At some point I should put better two-string methods on that guy. Or at least debugger display or similar. I guess two string methods because they're being used inside of this. Displaying the GUID doesn't make a lot of sense to me because it's an internal GUID that no one's expected to know anything about. So real quick, just to confirm, parent, if I do this, does this actually pass now? It does, so it's grabbing the wrong one. I want to sleep, but I can't while there's still a red X next to that test. Okay, Kenny, I'm sorry. We'll go quick. I'll fix the test. I really want it fixed. All of this so I can write a simple, stupid test for a very simple bug. Okay, so apparently we also don't even need this. So what I want to do is debug the... Oh, I must have closed it. The service, whose name I've already forgotten. Visual tree service, right? So get element has a fancy little lookup thingamabobber. And this is quick fix, remove the assert statement. No, Kenny. No, Kenny. Bad Kenny. Assertless tests are bad. Very, very bad. Okay, but I can do debugger launch here. All right. I just got to make sure that I don't accidentally ship with that code in. Because that would be bad. Okay. Debug back with my same instance. Same trick as before. Here we go. Okay, so we have a query. That is not the one I want to look at. Oh boy. I wonder if it's going to try to relaunch a debugger for every single one of these. I think I can just leave a breakpoint here though. So query child. Is that going to relaunch? Oh good, it knows that the debugger's already attached. Thank goodness. Okay, so I don't care about that one. I do care about this one. Okay. So our root element is the window, and our query is grid. Okay, so let's go through and see what we got. So get next query of type, step in. Naturally, we regex it because reasons. It is a slash, and so we substring this guy. Current query is slash GUID. Query is slash GUID. Or grid. Wow, I can't talk either. Okay, starts with dot, no, starts with slash, yes, trim the slash off. So we're looking for a child of the given type, right? And yeah, so there's that. So we return. So child types, evaluate child type query. We are looking for a grid. Let's go in here. Indexer. There should be no match because we aren't saying nested child elements, right? So we do descendants. The window. Type name query. Grid. Didn't find it. Let me just confirm. Is this... Okay, this is breadth first. Okay, breadth first makes sense. It shouldn't matter for this simple of a case because we only have one effective branch down the tree. So that's fine. Child, adorner decorator, content presenter, adorner layer, grid, index of 0, right? Go through and return the grid, right? So we found the first grid, right? You live in New York City. I assume that's what you mean by MIC. No, I actually live almost as far as you can get from that off the band. I am in Washington State, so the other side of the country. So it's almost 11 p.m. Okay, so we evaluated the query. We got the first grid. You over on the East side of the country off the band, or where are you from? That's my time zone. Got it. Let's see here. So, current grid. Okay, so we now expect to do the next query type, right? And I'm fairly confident this is going to work, so we're going to go kind of quick through this because I expect the exact same hits, right? / we expect the value to be another grid type. Great, that's what we expect. We're going to evaluate this. Our current is the grid, so we should be starting from our current grid and going down, right? Oh, I bet you I know where the bug is, right? Because I'm willing descendants returns itself first. I bet you that's what it is. So let's look. Yeah, it NQs itself first, which means the first one it's going to DQ is going to be itself. That doesn't seem right. Okay, so that's the bug. Descendants includes the root element. So let's look. So descendants is literally only used in this one place. So changing its behavior seems prudent, right? So is that a problem though? Because if I expect to query from a type to a type, I don't expect it to return itself, do I, in all situations? Because we can search by name, by type, by index. So property is a bit of an issue if we don't return self, right? Because we expect to be able to act on that. So property is the one that needs it to return self. From a definition standpoint, I wouldn't expect the root element to be returned as a descendant. I agree, and I kind of want to look and see what this is doing. The thing is, property is already going to act on the root. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think we just whack that NQ. The only issue being, right, that that I still need to get inside of this while loop here, right, and effectively get child count. I'm somewhat tempted to leave this here. And in the interest of simplicity, skip the first element. Because it's a dependency object, it's not going to filter anything on type. Let's see how badly that breaks anything. I think this is probably fine. It looks weird, right? Oh, shoot. I left the debugger call in there. Oh. Stop running. Cancel. I need to kill that debugger launch call because that is going to bite. I hate that solution. I know. So you are absolutely correct, and we should refactor it. But I kind of, this guy's, yeah, that guy's probably holding on to something. Let's try this again. That may have left the process running. Needs to know the internal workings of the method. Yes, you are correct. You are correct. And I think ultimately what needs to change is... Yeah, I couldn't copy. Dang it. 1 second. I got to go kill that process real quick. At least I'm not fork bombing myself tonight. It's already a plus. End task. Okay, fine, Kenny. You're being very picky about making me code correctly. Why must you insist on standards and good code and normalcy? Okay, so I think the issue being, really what I want is backseat coding is easy. Let's see. So void enqueue and QU EU EUE, right? IEnumerable dependency object items, right? So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make my life a little bit easier. So for each our item and items, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, right? Okay, so now I've got, let's see, yeah, now we got a way to enqueue a bunch of stuff. Q may be null here. How would Q be null? Because I could invoke it from above before this gets invoked. Whatever, this part I'm going to just tell the compiler to be quiet on. That is not a case I care to solve at the moment. Okay. IEnumerable dependency object get children. Dependency object item. Alright. This one we're going to go with static. And we're going to basically just take all of this out, right? Yeah, we're going to do this. So this is all going to go in here. And yield return this guy. And yield return this guy. And this becomes item, right? So now what we can do inside of here, so enqueue get children current. Boom, and then all of this goes away. Right, but more importantly, what we can now do is enqueue, right, get children parent. There. Happy? Is that better? Clear as mud? Okay. Proof's in the pudding. Only if the test passes. It compiled. What more do you want? Hey, one test passes. Okay, let's see them all pass. Oh, I've got a debugger break that I left in somewhere. Apparently I left in more than one. And it's flashing. You're going to have to trust me. It's flashing the window on my other monitor. I don't know why it decided that it needed to change locations. Debugger launch. That'll be a fun thing for another day, is GitHub action that looks for things like debugger launch and doesn't let the thing merge if it's there. Okay. Test passes. Bug fixed. We're going to push it again. Now, I'm doing my due diligence and just running the test locally and pushing straight into master, but at some point I do need to protect the branch so that I have to do things right rather than just, force push, cowboy it in. Okay, we've got more tests. Let's see. Fixing issue with selecting with with type matching grabbing same element. Sure. Commit push, and that should get me another build. Hopefully in a moment. And more importantly, we did technically solve an issue. So that one's now fixed. Look at that, one less bug. So this guy runs, we get a new NuGet package, and then I can go back to grabbing this guy elsewhere. Okay. So all of this, run test. I believe this guy still was a problem, right? Because the effective background of this guy, if I recall correctly, because the hint has a text box opacity on it, so if we look here, we go back in, this guy here is, I think, the problem, right? Because what we said was, let's see, adorner layer border, this guy, hint, right? Because we were grabbing this hint wrapper, right? And if we look at background, right? So this guy would go up, he would hit here, and he would stop. However, he should keep going up the tree to get the opacity that gets applied. Oh, but that's a bit of a problem. Right? So what will happen is it'll apply an opacity from the parents, but ultimately it's going to keep going all the way up to the top of the window. So how did our other test pass? Because wouldn't it... Because we wrote a test that did that, right? Now I'm confused. Let's see. So not this. Get effective background. Emerging transparent colors. Applies opacity from parents, right? So this guy here. You know, when you start questioning the test, you know it's going downhill. Yeah, I know. I'm just curious, this test here, right? This guy ends up walking all the way up to the window, ultimately reaching elements with opacity higher than this, right? And we end up getting something... I'm just curious why this opacity works. And why I get back a non-opaque one here. Because, right, so get effective background, this guy, right? Because we start with the first element, right, the text block, and we work our way up. We grab the first grid, which has the blue background, right? That's fine. We get to the second grid. We've reached our stopping element already, so all we do is we apply the opacity. The problem being is if we apply the opacity here and we keep going, won't this eventually always reach 1? No, because it's going to multiply, and 1 times a fraction will be a fraction. Steel trap mind right there. So then the question is, why is this one not working, right? So it starts at hint wrapper, right? That's where we're starting. Starting at hint wrapper, we're going up to the text box. So he's going to go up here. He's going to pick up paper, right? That's the color we expect, which is fine, right? That's a valid background color. He continues walking up, continues walking up, continues walking up, continues walking up, continues walking up. Well, he should stop at this text field grid, right? So he's no longer going to be applying backgrounds, but only any opacities. Right? So he should have, let's see, that shouldn't have applied anything. That shouldn't have applied anything. That wouldn't have applied anything. That wouldn't apply anything. So he stops grabbing backgrounds. He hits here, right? And I would expect this one to apply down and get this 0.42 applied into it, even though it stops here. No, it doesn't stop. It's going all the, okay, so the test is bad, right? So we want to stop here, not there. Okay. World kind of makes sense at the moment. World stopped making sense once again. Okay, back into here. Let's dive right back through what this code is doing. Because the problem is we wrote a unit test specifically for this case, which is what's bothering me. Right? There is a test here. We started here, and wish there was a way to tell it to keep its settings. Might have to add that. Okay. All right, so we start here at hint wrapper. This opacity isn't going to get applied because the color isn't, the background isn't set, so it's already transparent. That's probably okay. Probably, I guess. We go up. We pick up material design paper, which is the color we're getting returned, right? FA, FA, FA. We get paper. We work our way up, right? No more background. That's a no up. That's a no up. Let's see. Opacity 1, background not set, no up. Opacity 1, background not set, that's a no up. Opacity 1, background not set, no op. Background's a no op. Opacity set, right? So we hit here, right? This should have been the last one where we consider the background brush. But we should still continue up the tree, which should get this applied to material design paper, right? This should be multiplying 0.42 against whatever color is there. I don't understand how that would end up getting me back to a fully opaque color. Right? That doesn't make sense. So I'm a little curious where the background. So we aren't getting all the way to the grid, right? So if we look at foo, right? Foo is clearly giving us red, which makes sense, right? So if we look at the effective color of the text box, we're getting red because its parent grid gets red. So it does appropriately apply that. So the only material design paper that it could be picking up is from inside of here, right? So it has to be picking up this brush here, which makes sense that that would get set to paper, right? It's picking up that background, and as it's walking up the tree, somewhere along this line, it is not getting where I expect, right? I expect it to evaluate multiple elements. But somehow it is clearly not evaluating this. Which makes me wonder because we are using the visual tree helper and the logical tree helper to find our parents. Right? So when we do get effective background color, we are over here and we do ancestors, right? This guy uses only the visual tree helper to get the parents. So he should walk straight up. I do wonder if he needs to, I'm wondering if there's something about the custom control where that is failing. That's what I think. But I also think that it's 11 o'clock and I should probably stop so that Kenny can go to bed. That's what I'm thinking. This is going to bother me, so I'm probably going to have to poke at this more. So if I get time, I may end up doing more streams. But we'll see. No promises. I will have this solved by next time, though, because this is one of those nerd snipe approaches that is going to bother me. How will you sleep with this unsolved? No, Kenny, you don't seem to understand. I just memorize the code, go to sleep, and then I wake up with the solution. It's very simple. You mean you don't do debugging in your sleep? I thought that was how everyone did it. So let's see. If we go and look, xkcd. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, this one here, if you hear me reference nerd snipe, that's what it's referring to. That guy right there. So there is that one. Yeah, so I think I'm going to leave that there for now. I have a hunch. Dreaming about WPF is also known as a nightmare. Oh, come on. Come on. You'll learn to love it. Yeah, so I think with that, I'm probably going to sign off and tell everybody happy coding. Kenny and Cameron. Let's see, who else did I see in the chat earlier? Off the band. Robert, thank you guys for coming and hanging out. Always fun seeing you guys around. So, hopefully this gets better and I'm not nearly as worn out and stressed as I have been today. So, we'll say happy coding. Everybody stay safe out there. We'll see everybody next time. Thanks, Kenny.